Hello my dear sewing friends, and in this video I would love to share with you 3 straight stitch secrets, which I know it does sound a little bizarre because what else there is to the straight stitch except for being a straight stitch, but there are a couple of really interesting, unique tips and tricks that I would love to show you, and perhaps they will make your sewing not only more interesting but also a little bit easier. As always, I have plenty of examples for you so that way you can clearly see when and how to use each one of these techniques, but I really want to start with the one that I'm personally the most fascinated by, because you can truly create some mesmerizing things by simply using a straight stitch on your sewing machine. So let me bring this to you a little bit closer. All of the embroidery that you see on this little blouse I did by using a straight stitch, and it might look complex, but I promise you the steps couldn't be simpler. First, we're going to take off your regular presser foot. Next, we will need to disengage your feed dogs, and on most sewing machines it is as easy as pushing a button. Mine is right over here, so just do that. If you have a really old sewing machine, you might have a specialty plate that will cover the feed dogs. So in any case, if not sure, always consult your sewing machine manual. Next, of course, is the fabric. I'm going to be using simple cotton, and although I've done it without the hoop, I would definitely suggest using it and stretching the fabric to avoid any thread nests on the bottom as you do this technique. After that, you can transfer a design on your fabric using a heat erasable pen or a piece of chalk or any other marking tool, or perhaps you just want to follow your heart and do a little bit of freestyle. Now here's an important point. I'm going to be doing this without a foot at all, but you might find that in other resources like books and videos that they will ask you to put on a darning foot or free motion embroidery foot. And I have those from my other sewing machine and I've used them for this technique as well, but from my experience, I don't see a difference with using or without using a foot, and I actually prefer working without it because then I can better see what's going on and where I'm going. First, I'm going to bring my hoop underneath the presser foot. Then, while it's still up, I'm going to bring my needle down and then bring it way up. And then I'm going to use that in order to pick up the bobbin thread and bring it to the top. Next, I'm going to select my regular straight stitch. Now I'm going to lower the presser foot holder just like for any other sewing and start. And to secure the thread tails, I will go over them a couple of times, and then I'll stop and snip them off. Now in this technique, as you can see, my hands rest on the edges of the hoop to keep away from the needle, and I sort of hold it like the steering wheel, controlling where the needle is gonna go. I think it's needless to say, but sky is truly the limit. You can create some really beautiful things by simply using a straight stitch and thread sketching technique. You can also then throw in a little zigzag in the mix and do thread painting. So there's plenty to explore, and this is just scratching the surface. As you can see here, we've made a little flower. I added a little writing on top of it. Also, make sure that you look up more information on this technique because obviously it's impossible to fit everything in a 3-minute explanation. In some cases, you might want to add a little backing or a little bit of interfacing depending on the fabric that you're going to be using, the project, and more. But I wanted to show you a couple of examples that I worked on to practice the skill. Some of these are very simple, some a little bit more complex with more color and definition to it, but I hope that you can see that even simple doodles like these done in one color, this is just variegated thread, can be incorporated into your garments and really add a spark and a special touch to your design. And I must say that I've been playing with this technique for about a year now, and my first attempts were definitely nothing to write home about. I'm still learning, I'm still practicing my craft, but you can truly do some beautiful things with just a little bit of imagination, and I truly hope that this inspired you. For this next straight stitch secret, did you know that you can make your straight stitch seam stretchy? The secret, of course, is in type of thread that you're going to be using for it. Now, unlike your regular thread, this one is actually stretchy, but it's not to be confused with shearing elastic because it's not the same thing. And to my knowledge, there are two suppliers that make this kind of thread on the market right now. One is Eloflex by Coats & Clark, and the other one is Mataflex by Gutermann. Then, when you sew your knits with a straight stitch using this thread, the seam will remain stretchy. Now, it's not going to stretch for days. There will be a point where it's going to break, but it's definitely more flexible than using just your regular all-purpose polyester or cotton thread on a straight stitch and knit garments. In a sewing machine, it is used just like a regular thread, so you'll put it up top and you will also put it in the bobbin. I do have a serger, so I don't use it as much for the construction purposes of the entire garment, but I do love using this thread when top stitching knit necklines, or at times there might be a really tricky, flimsy knit that just doesn't want to be hemmed on any other machine or any other technique. Then this thread definitely comes to the rescue. Now, this next tip, or secret if you will, is about enhancing your straight stitch and adding a little bit of color. And here I want to start with a needle that perhaps you've never seen before, because I was not familiar with it up until last year when I was doing an online order for my regular sewing machine notions like needles and thread and some elastic for the sewing room and whatnot. And I came across this double eye needle, which, as the name suggests, has two eyes. And to use this needle, first you're going to pop it into your sewing machine just like any other needle. You will also need two top threads. In my case, I will be using bright colors, so hopefully you can see a little bit better. You will also need an additional spool holder that usually comes with your sewing machine, but I've also used just a regular plastic cup that I placed behind the sewing machine. I put the spool inside of it, so if you don't have a little holder that pops in right over here, you can also try that out and see how it works for you. I'm loading my bobbin as per usual. For the top, I like to work one thread at a time. Everything here is exactly the same as you would be threading your regular needle. The only thing that you have to keep in mind that the automatic threader isn't going to work with this type of needle, so you need to do that manually. And I like to place my first thread in the upper eye of the needle. Then comes the second thread. I'm going to be threading it exactly as the first one, and it's gonna go in the bottom eye of the needle. Now grab a piece of scrap fabric and let's take a look. As a result, you can see here a beautiful straight stitch with two colored thread. You can do shading this way, maybe with light blue and dark blue. You can also load two of the same colors and then do a really nice bold top stitching. But there's another way how you can do it without getting a double eye needle. You can simply use a regular needle that you already have and then load two threads through the same eye. The only thing that I've noticed is that the double eye needle gives you a better consistency if you're using two different colored threads. So here you can see an example of the double eye needle and two colored threads, and a straight stitch is quite consistent. One color is one side, the other one is on the other. But if you push two threads through your regular single eye needle, you can see it does flip-flop a little bit. I also did a lot of testing on this double eye needle using decorative stitches, and the results were here and there. Some did better than the others, and I find that the bigger is the design, the more skipped stitches this double eye needle will produce. So as always, these kind of products are very niche, very specific for a very sort of narrow task. But I thought it would be fun to include, since most of us really love learning something new and interesting when it comes to sewing and all things creative. But in this case, if you want to do a beautiful shaded straight stitch, you don't have to have anything extra. Just take two threads, load them into your same needle, and you will get a great result, which is also the way that a lot of people like doing top stitching, by using a regular thread without buying anything extra, which definitely works. But I actually prefer using a triple straight stretch stitch, which gives that super nice bold top stitching that I'm usually after. If you learned something new and got some creative ideas, give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to see sewing tools that I think are worth every single penny and I use all the time, then click on the video right over here. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you soon. Bye!